Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be talking about single-handed firearms. So mainly pistols, because most of them follow the same mechanism kind of, except revolvers. But I'll be going over like the semi-automatic kind of firearms. So things like 1911. That's like a really easy gun to draw. So to understand how to draw the gun, I think you gotta know how it works. Alright? And the reason is, if you know how it works, you'll know how to draw it in different stages of the firing. And so you could draw cooler situations, I guess, you know? And so the 1911 has this thing over here in the back where this part of the thumb grabs onto it, and you have to squeeze there and the trigger at the same time for it to fire, I think. I think that's how it works, but you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And it's got this thing over here that ejects the cartridge, the magazine, I mean. So the magazine goes in the gun, right? And press everything on this side of the gun where the thumb is. That's where things like the safety are, right? So the safety locks this thing from ejecting backwards, the top of the gun. And yeah, so here you got, and then there's a lock area thing over here, this thing, and then there's like these two little indents over here, and this thing could lock onto them, depending on I'll get into that later. And there's this thing over here, and then the ridges over here. I forgot how many there are, but yeah. And then you got the iron sights, and then a small iron sight here in the front. So that's the basic shape of the gun, right? And the way the gun works is, I had a model here somewhere. Oh, here it is. So this is a small model, right? I should have just shown this in the beginning before drawing it. But the way it works is, so you got this isn't a real thing, by the way. This is just a toy, okay? So it loads in, and then it has to, whoops. So there was already one in the chamber, right? Here you got one of the fake bullets here in the chamber. And the way a gun works is once it fires, right? The pin over here, the hammer hits the pin, the powder inside the bullet ignites, and the bullet shoots out, and the pressure inside the gun here causes this top part to move back, right? And when that happens, the casing flies out from the bullet that already fired, and the new bullet loads inside, right? So you'll see something like this, right? And then now you got a new one in the chamber. Yeah, whoops, there you go, right? And so that's kind of how a gun works. I'm simplifying it for the sake of the video, but and if you understand how it works, you could draw it in different stages of the firing and stuff like that, or even like different parts, or even when it's like out of ammo. So let's say here it's out, right? And this lock area locks the top of the gun, right? And the gun is out. And so what happens is it unlocks, unlocks, and then it ejects the magazine, put in another magazine, and then load the gun, right? But there's no ammo in there, so it just does that. But yeah. So like if you load in, we just load in one ammo here. So load into the magazine. These model guns you could find on eBay. They're like the small ones. This is like a 1/3 scale. Yeah. So here, that's when it loads in a new one, right? And it looks like that. So you could draw in different stages of that, and you'll have like maybe. So let's say we draw it when it's locked like that. It's good practice to you could search up images on the internet, right? Or even pause this video for reference. And I'm just trying to get the basic shape, right? Might be a little off, but it's fine. And so here, that's a basic gun when it's out of ammo. And the thing about guns is that they're very solid shapes, right? And so here, one mistake that I'll see when I'm sketching guns, or when anybody's sketching guns, is that some of the lines are not straight enough. Like, if you need to make the line straighter, you can use a ruler, right? You can use like any kind of straight edge, and I recommend that when drawing guns, because it makes it look more solid in the picture. Like if you draw a gun like this, right? Like even though like it's kind of accurate, right? It's still got this like weird wonky feeling to it because everything is so circular about it. But even if you draw a gun incorrectly, yeah, the lines are just very straight. It just feels more like a gun. You know? And so if you just add more straight lines and you make sure it's solid, it looks more like a gun. That's just the point here. And drawing guns, the most difficult part about it is connecting it to the hand. You could draw it from different angles all day, you know, different side views and stuff like that, and you know, even from the front. It's really, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of prisms, right? So if I'm drawing it from this angle, so yeah, just different angles is gonna look it's not too hard to do if you do it with some practice. So there's really no point in the video for me to draw it from different angles, because I'm pretty sure you could figure that out on your own. But the main part I'm going to talk about is how it connects to the hand. So what I'm going to do is I want to draw a hand on each one here. And the thing about the hand is that the human hand is very articulate, and so it could wrap around a lot of different objects. But the main thing about the gun is that the thumb area has to wrap around here, right? And the thumb, when it wraps around the gun, you have to understand the angle of the thumb, so it kind of just points in this direction. Right? And I had another model gun here. It was like a toy one, it's like a Nerf one, but I don't know where it went. So here it is. So the thumb always points down there because the thumb could always hit that cartridge thing, right? And you're squeezing every time you hit the trigger, right? So it's, and it always like kind of like points to that middle finger there. And you see like the shortest finger, the pinky, it wraps around also. Sometimes I got a tendency to not draw the pinky when it wraps around the gun. But here the thumb is very large. Let me make that smaller a bit. And you also see the thumb muscle here, right? Can make the handle bigger. So yeah, now if I want to draw it here, remember the nails show perspective in the nail. I mean in the finger. So if you're drawing a finger pointing forward, draw the nail like that, right? If the finger you're seeing from the top view, the nail is like that. You get what I mean? Because you'll never have a finger that's pointing forward and you got the nail like that. That means the finger's pointing down. And so you're drawing the finger going that way. That hand muscle right there. You got that finger in here. And the forearm usually points the same direction as the gun. So you got to keep that in mind. Because nobody holds a gun and then just moves their wrist like that. You're not shooting that way and your forearm is pointing that direction. It's throwing a punch, right? You never throw a punch with your wrist like that. That'll just hurt you. Throw a punch going forward with your forearm behind it. It also, you have to understand that the weight of the gun isn't just its own weight, but the weight of the bullet that's getting fired. So like the recoil, that's the right name for it. The recoil of the gun, you're preparing for it as you shoot. And so the way you position your hand, you got to make sure it could take that impact. So you got to keep that in mind when you're drawing the gun. And then let me talk about the other side of the gun. So now we kind of drew the thumb side, right? Now the other side of the gun. This side, right? See how the fingers, the knuckles line up with the handle, right? So we'll draw this side of the gun. You got the hand over here. Knuckles move down. And usually this segment of the finger, right? So if you're drawing a finger, it's the same size here, from here to the knuckle, right? And this side of the gun, that's where the chamber, not the chamber, the bullet, the casing ejects from the chamber, or the barrel, whatever it's called. And I think it's on that side just so it doesn't hit the person shooting in the head, you know? Just so the bullet casing, it comes out hot, right? So it doesn't land on the person, it just ejects outside. Because most people are righties, and so, yeah. Like if you're a lefty and you're holding a gun, your thumb isn't on the side where you click on the magazine to eject. You know? So if you're thinking about it, you got the side where the magazine ejects, right? That's for operation with your right hand. You got the safety here. You got the other lock, right? That also, yeah. And on this side, if you're using your thumb here and you're a lefty, the bullets will eject towards you, the casings, I mean, and the safety is going to be harder to control, and the ejection of the magazine. And so it's just easier to draw people right-handed when they use guns. I don't even think you could use a gun. Can you use a gun left-handed? I don't know, but yeah, you can. I mean, look, I don't know much about guns, but I'm assuming you can. Like, there's no way they just don't teach lefties how to shoot. But yeah, I think it'll be easier with a right hand. But yeah, my point is, for guns, the main thing is keep them as straight as possible. The way the hand wraps around them, like once you figure out how to thumb and that finger wraps, the rest is pretty much easy and self-explanatory. And you got to understand that the perspective of the gun, the hand has to follow it too. And the gun is basically an extension of the person, and the forearm is an extension of the person and the forearm, right? And so whatever direction the forearm points, the gun should point to, or else it becomes all weird looking. So if I'm going to continue this person, you got their head over here. And remember, following the same perspective. So yeah, it's all about perspective, really, because at the end of the day, the gun is just prisms. And if you can manipulate prisms and draw them, you can draw a gun. I hope this video helped. I know it's very guns are confusing. It takes a while to understand how they work. But once you understand the different mechanisms of it, right? Like, let's say you want to draw it mid-firing, right? We could kind of like freeze it there. And so we know how the hammer works, right? You pull down the hammer, right? And it's ready to shoot, right? If you press both. And so what happens is once a gun shoots, the hammer presses here, right? Shoots the bullet, and then the thing recoils back, right? And it resets the hammer. So once it comes back, then you could shoot again, right? Bang, 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 right? And so once you know that mechanism, you could kind of draw the gun well, you could draw it in a different poses, or and I'm not really looking at the reference. I'm just holding it still so you guys can see it. Because I've drawn guns enough that I kind of know, I kind of remember how they look already. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And you got to make sure, yeah, everything's got to be solid. Because the thing is, once you start rounding out parts of the gun, it starts to look less like a gun and more like a balloon. And you don't want that. You want it to look threatening, right? Remember, you see how that's less detailed than all the other ones? Yeah, it still has a feel like, it feels like it's metal, you know? Yeah, I would recommend making sure the lines are as straight as possible in guns, because they are like carved through machines and they're molded through metal molds, right? I mean, I don't know much about guns, but this is all I know about guns in this video, and I hope it helps. I'll do another video maybe on rifles and stuff, but I'll do also one on handheld like knives and melee weapons, because melee weapons can end up looking funny if they're drawn incorrectly, especially with the way they're held. So yeah, I mean, here we kind of went over that with the way the forearm works in cases like this, where it always usually points the same direction as the weapon, because it has to be in a line of sight, and at the same time absorb the impact of the weapon. In this case, it's recoil. In the case of melee weapons, your body weight is usually behind the weapon, just so you can put force in it, because it does more damage with the more force you put behind it and the more force you can withstand, so you don't collapse, So if you're swinging a baseball bat, right, and but yeah, with melee weapons you're gonna have to stand differently too, because you're using your body weight. With guns, you're not really using body weight, right? Because you could be moving at the same time, but you're really just recovering from the weight of the recoil. So it's mainly upper body. Of course, if you talk to a person who shoots guns, maybe they'll say that the lower body will have to, be posed in a certain way. But yeah, for the sake of just drawing comic books, upper body is what matters more. But yeah, hope this video helps. Hope it was informative. Leave any comments if you got any questions, and if you got anything to say about the video. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.